just cut open. Let's just cut open a Briar cigar right now, so you can show the inside.
Mm. Do I
Just
have
burn
one?
one. Just
I
throw
might
it
have
away.
one that's cut open.
Do you really? That's okay. What's up,
No, I'm sure I
everybody?
do. I'm sure I
This is
do
Beyond the
somewhere.
Pipe podcast. Chris and I are just rambling. We're going to talk about airways in pipes and different types of chambers and benefits, the reasons you would buy a high grade pipe because of the internal engineering, all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. I'm lighting a cigar though. I'm
How you
smoking
doing?
a Rocky Patel 1990, vintage 1990. I don't know why they call them that because it's not that old.
And I have a
But this
secret
was,
cigar I don't want to tell anyone about.
oh, okay. Um, it's full of weed, isn't it? Chris has got her backwoodsy
It's
roll.
like that big.
um, this was actually the first cigar that I remember enjoying like 10 years ago. And I always liked
Yeah.
them ever since, and I've always had them on hand. Even though I don't smoke cigars that often, but it's nice. It's light.
No, I have a Buenaventura,
Oh, sweet.
which is a Curavari brand, but
I think I've only
it's
smoked one
good.
of those.
It's one of the cheaper. I smoke cheap cigars.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know. I don't have the palate, I think, to justify an expensive stick, so I just don't bother.
It's rare that I finish a cigar, so I might as well smoke cheaper ones because then I feel guilty if I had like a
Yeah.
$15 or $20 cigar and I only smoked half of it. But I'm learning.
I'm not.
I'm a pipe guy, obviously not really into cigars, but I enjoy them on occasion.
I don't know. My camera is so wobbly, dude. I need to get. Oh, it's because my monitor is on a suspension and the camera is like not stable. So if it
Oh,
shakes, don't worry. We're in California. Things do that here.
yeah.
Um, all right. We'll start off, and this is going to be primarily like beneficial if you're on YouTube. So if you are listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever, hop over to Beyond the Pipe on YouTube, and you'll be able to see all my fun props that I've got here.
Sweet.
I should have brought out a cutaway, but it's fine. I don't really feel like dealing with it. So traditionally, you have in pipes and tobacco pipes, you have a continuous airway, right? So you're going to go from a chamber to a small airway to preferably the same or a low transition, a low step down. You want to go from like 5/32 airway to like maybe like a 9/64 stem airway, taper down and then spread out, and then that's going to give you your slot. That's ideally what you want in a traditional airway, and that's
So
going to look.
let's start with factory stems then and explain what the
Yeah.
internals of a factory stem are going to look like.
Oh, it's hard to do that without cutaways, but essentially, it's the same. I mean, it's roughly the same. This one's got a little bit of wax on it. Inside here on a factory stem, you're going to be able to see part of the slot, which is actually a really good sign, because that means that you're a continuous airway all the way through. It's large enough. You're getting a lot of airflow. It's not restricted, and so you're essentially going from a probably in this one, I think it's a little over 9/64 because it's metric, and you're going to basically taper to about here, and then that's going to start spreading out, and you're going to have like a fanning of that airway. So it's
Yeah.
going to go down to a 16th of an inch, but it's going to be flat and it's going to spread out.
But on a
In a
factory stem,
factory,
they don't. Okay, yeah,
you
sorry.
don't
I
have
thought you
as
were
much
talking
of
about.
that. Yeah, on a factory pipe, you don't have as much of that. You usually just have like a little bit of a cutout. That really doesn't do a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, it does enough, but in a handmade pipe, you're going to have that thing usually funnel out completely. Uh, this is bent. And this stem will be funneled starting here. At least this is the way I do it. I think Sean does it the same way.
Yeah,
The
I
further
funnel
down you
halfway
can
down.
start your, yeah, the further down you can do it, the more fanning, smoother transition, less moisture. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Um,
So the cause of that
but
moisture
that's
is the steps within
it's the
with a
steps.
factory
So
using a different size airway. They don't
yeah,
use a
and
taper.
some of the crappier stems, like the real cheap ones, will use just regular bits, like regular bits, and it'll just chip away. And then, hey, we need to use a smaller size. They'll go a little deeper with that, and
Which
eventually
creates a
you
shoulder.
have all these shoulders inside, and that is what creates the precipitation, the moisture, the turbulence. That's what you don't want
Yeah.
for a traditionally drilled pipe, right? And that can be 9 millimeter or otherwise. Um, a 9 millimeter or 6 millimeter filtered pipe work a little differently, but your airways should be similar. It's very similar to what I just mentioned, except that you have a plenum space for the filter.
Yeah.
Now it gets into the complicated stuff. So an RC chamber, on the other hand, its design is to do exactly the opposite of that. And it wouldn't seem like that would be common knowledge, but the point of it is, so this is an RC, and the point of this chamber in here is
Is a big
to
opening for.
create, it's a big plenum space. You want to have the smoke come into the chamber, and the point of it is to create the most amount. And I mean, this is hollow also.
Yeah.
So we the point of this is to create condensation. So you're going to be sucking. So the way that this works, and the reason I have to mention this way is because we went through all these steps with the Briar cigar to figure out why it happens. But essentially, when you are using a reverse calabash pipe, or a calabash pipe for that matter, it creates the same thing. And reverse calabash is kind of a misnomer. Like it's just what we call it. It doesn't actually define what it is.
Yeah, the cavity is in the shank of the pipe, not surrounding
Under
the bowl. Typically, with
exactly.
it, like a gourd calabash, for those that don't know or have never seen one, you've got a gourd or something that is the pipe bowl or the pipe chamber, and then the bowl sits inside of it, and all you're doing is
Yeah.
creating a huge cavity for all the smoke to go in and have basically moisture drop off before it goes through your stem. So on a reverse calabash, I don't even know who came up with that term, because a reverse calabash is a calabash. It's just shaped a little different internally. It pretty
Yeah.
much serves the same purpose,
I
and
feel like it was like Reviagan or something. Because he was
it
doing
could have been.
these, I don't want to say he was doing these before anyone, but he kind of popularized them. The guy from Acme Pipes, he was doing them for a long time. I
Yeah.
keep blanking on his name for some reason. Um, but there's so the point of doing that is to create the moisture. So what happens
Well,
when
create
you
a
create
trap.
you create a trap, but if you can turbulate the smoke, then you're going to precipitate moisture. So the way this works, and I'll explain it for the Briar cigar because it makes a little bit more sense in my mind. So this is my product, the Briar cigar, that I patented, and essentially what you have here is a briar tube. On one end, you have a tobacco chamber. On the other end, where the stem goes, there is a large plenum space that acts as an RC chamber that goes to about here. What happens when you're burning tobacco? I'll leave the cap off. When you're burning tobacco, there's moisture in the tobacco. Even if it's like bone dry, there's still going to be moisture from the atmosphere that you're pulling in. And there's going to essentially, when you burn it, you're creating steam, like a smoky steam or a steamy smoke. We'll put it that way. And so essentially that's traveling through the airway and then it's hitting this chamber here. Now, without this chamber, you're basically pulling in hot smoke. So smoke that has no moisture is going to be dry. Smoke that has lots of moisture, i.e. steam, is going to be wet and hot. It's going to feel hotter on your tongue, which is where a lot of tongue bite comes from. So by creating a mini storm in here, right, you are going to be removing a lot of the moisture from the smoke, thusly drying out the smoke. Is
Yeah.
that does that make sense the way I'm
Yeah.
explaining it? Because it is kind of hard to visualize it, I think.
And
But
like with a
you are,
cigar, you're basically smoking an entire filter.
mhm.
So nobody
And
really
that is
talks
why
about
the
getting
flavors
tongue bite.
condense. Yeah, the
Yeah.
flavors condense over time. So by the time you get to the very end of this thing and you're nubbing it, the flavors are going to be much more pronounced, much more intense,
Nicotine's going to
and
have collected.
nicotine's collecting all that. And the same kind of thing works for an RC chamber. But at the end, you just pop the stem off, which most of them are military mount. So this is a probably less than a 1 degree taper, and it just fits in
Fits in.
perfectly like that. You're going to take a paper towel, wipe it out because it's going to be wet. Leave the stem off for the rest of the day, and it'll dry out, and you'll be fine. Um, but the science behind it is you're creating a lot of turbulence, and it's essentially shaking out the moisture because what's going on in here is all kinds of weird, you know, not just thermal coefficients because there's different materials, but also wind speed and like all kinds of different movement that's just
Very
rattling
scientific.
around. It's very, yeah, don't worry about it. It's very scientific. But essentially that's what's happening. And that's the whole point of an RC chamber is to get the smoke drier. And it in some way can mute flavors. Um, some people say that I only smoke RC pipes because it's a cooler smoke and it ends up sometimes being easier on some people's palates. But some people say that it does sometimes take away flavor because in that precipitation, you are also getting volatile oils out of the smoke
Yeah.
with that moisture releasing. It's not like distilled water. You're getting the tars, the flavors, the all the oils and junk. Those are coming out also. I
And
knew it was going to go
in
out.
here's cigar. In
Hmm.
some ways, a church warden stem can kind of do that for the fact that it's
Hmm.
super long. Or if you think of like a tavern clay, like a really really
Yeah.
long clay pipe, it's
Hmm.
absorbing moisture that entire way
Yeah.
up the chamber, or up the airway. So
Yeah.
you kind of get the same thing with that. Now, I believe that if you have a properly made pipe that has an open airway with great flow that does not have any turbulence in it, you can have a perfectly dry smoke all the way to the bottom.
Absolutely.
But that takes effort to do. And that's one of the main reasons why you would go with, a higher grade artisan pipe, or, most of the guys now that are making pipes have learned from those of us that have taught them how to make a pipe with no turbulence and get that same effect. Even if you had like a filtered pipe, you could just take the filter out of there and it's going to act like a
Mhm.
little tiny reverse calabash chamber. And as long as you
Yeah.
smoke a little slower, a lot of people can do that and not have to worry about it. There's various reasons why people would have a filter, but for the most part, it is moisture.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. But you also have to change your filters. Some people don't change their filters often enough. Like you should be,
oh,
for me, if I'm smoking filtered, which is very rare, I'm talking like every
that'd be
bowl.
that'd be a new one every time. I would never reuse a filter.
I
I'm sure
can't
you
reuse a
probably
filter.
could, but I don't know. So I guess there's so many different ways that you can make a pipe. There's none that are technically wrong. There's just some that have been refined and are better for various reasons. But for the most part, when you're going from a factory pipe to a handmade, you're just getting something that has been thought through from the airway, from the bowl all the way to the button.
Yeah.
The whole airway is smooth. The whole airway has no steps in there, creating little pockets of turbulence, which collect moisture.
It's just attention to detail. Like a factory pipe, and I'll use Bones as an example. Most Bones pipes don't have a funneled, like that's the extent of the funnel right there.
Yeah. And the reason they do that is because they take a little saw blade that cuts it out.
Yeah.
So that way they don't have to use a tapered bit at all. They don't even
Yeah.
have to use a small bit at the very end, because your your little saw blade that's going to cut that slot is thinner than the airway.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Th-
times you'll have like an 1/8 inch airway, or
mhm.
like what's that in millimeter? Like 3 millimeter, something like that.
An eight,
2.5
eighth.
or
Yeah.
three. So
Yeah.
that'll go all the way through that stem, and
I
then
think it's
it'll
two.
stop just before the end, and then that will, and then basically the plunge cut of the saw is what will open up and expose the rest of the airway. So then
Mhm.
behind the bite zone, you have a lot of material there, and that
Yeah.
works great. Like that was genius that somebody figured that out, 100 years ago or whatever they did.
It's quick though. Like, I mean, these are tapered in the stem. I do have these drilled with a taper bit
On your
inside so that you
bones.
don't, yeah, on the bones.
Cool.
Um, which is kind of rare, I think. A lot of cheaper factory pipes don't have that. But that was a big sticking point for me.
Cheaper considering that yours are the cheapest.
I think they are the cheapest, really. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm not naming names, but I think my competitor is more expensive than me. So
Interesting.
make sure you pick some up so I can keep justifying this business. Um, the the funny part though is that you were touching on it before with like the church warden stems and how that can kind of, there's a transition of material, and that's a really big issue. So if you have a really long briar section of the pipe and you have a really short stem, you're actually not going to get as much of that material transition. So when that hot smoke comes from what's considered a warm material, I think wood is considered a warm material, it's absorbent, and it hits plastic. Usually acrylic is going to be worse than this than vulcanite for that. But it's
Yeah.
going to hit a cold material, non-absorbent. It's immediately going to condensate on the inside of the stem, and that moisture is just going to basically roll back in. More so with a bent pipe than a straight, but it's just going to roll back in here, and you're going to get a little gurgle right at the foot. And you make your way halfway through the pipe. If you smoke too fast, usually this happens, and you'll feel it, you know. And some guys will do the shakeout. Some guys will put a pipe cleaner down
Where
it.
they flick it,
So you'll flick it. Sometimes
flick
like
the
you'll
stem,
you
and
can
I do
you can
that.
taste it on the end, and you're just like, it just tastes like bitter garbage. Um, that is specifically what's happening with when the smoke is hitting the stem. That's why that's happening, that moisture.
Yeah.
Or if you drool a lot, I guess. So if you want to ensure that you have a lot more of a chance of having a wetter smoke, go with a higher stem ratio. So like just get like a 3 foot long stem on a little briar bowl, and it's just going to be all moisture. That's just what's going to
Yeah.
happen. You don't have
But
any
it'll cool
absorbent
down by the time it
material.
gets to you in general,
It will. Yeah,
as
it's like
long
a
as you're not
hookah.
smoking like an asshole.
Hmm. And that's another thing, is like the speed at which you smoke is going to have a massive impact on the amount of moisture. So if you have a perfectly unrestricted 11/64 airway tapered down to a 5/32 down to essentially like 1 millimeter, and then you have it spread out into a fan and there's no restrictions, theoretically you're going to have a completely dry smoke. There's nothing for that precipitation or condensation to accumulate on,
Yeah.
and you're going to have a great experience. And that is what
Hmm.
you're going to get with an artisan pipe, or a pseudo artisan pipe, even like something that's been uh like an acrylic stem that has been like Workshop or Glacier for Sean and I. Something that's been modified, or K Woody is a good example. Something that's been modified to a point to where the internals are professional.
Yeah.
They've paid attention to the details. You're going to have a really nice slippery airway for that smoke to run down.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're looking for like an impossibly dry smoke, you could go with like something that has a really big chamber, like calabash chamber, like
Yeah.
going back to like a gourd calabash. This is a Fikri Baki out of Turkey, and so it has a meerschaum bowl, and inside, I mean, this is all hollow.
It's just all a
It
hollow. Yeah.
all hollow all the way to the end, and then there's a tenon for the briar. And this is going to be probably the driest smoke that you can possibly buy. I
Yeah.
mean, you could smoke just shisha in this and it'll be fine. Like you cannot overpower it because at a certain point you're going to get a lot of moisture down here and it's just going to sit and pool and you'll be fine. Like it's not going to go in the airway. It's not going to
Hmm.
contribute to the lack of performance.
Yeah. And then there's like, back in the 60s and 70s when stingers were
Hmm.
really
Same
popular.
thing.
A stinger at the end of the stem, it's basically just creating that turbulence, knocking out all the moisture from the smoke while it's
Yep.
still in the briar section of the stem. And so a
Hmm.
lot of times, as long as the flow was good, those worked well. You just don't really see them anymore. And I think a lot of that has to do with like people really want to be able to have a pipe cleaner go through all the way to the bowl the whole time. And that's usually not doable with a stinger type pipe. I've
Hmm.
had one stinger pipe ever that would actually pass a pipe cleaner. Otherwise, they like go out to the side sometimes.
Yeah, because they have the
And
vents on the sides. Yeah.
yeah, as well as most of those were like screw on stems, which honestly were just kind of a pain over time. They never really
Yeah.
seemed to fit straight. People would over tighten them, and then the next time, your stem's crooked, and there's really not a whole lot that you can do unless you send it to,
Hmm.
somebody like Rich at Briarville who really knows how to fix that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely not a pedestrian skill set. Like it's a lot of guys just rip the stingers out and they just smoke the pipes without the stingers, and a lot of
And
them were
thankfully,
not.
most of them were removable.
Most of them were, but some of them weren't removable, and you basically had
Yeah,
to modify it otherwise. But
they were incorporated into the screw tenon.
yeah,
But anytime I had one of those, I just cut them off. I didn't want them.
yeah, you can cut them off too. That's the other thing. Like you just use
Yeah,
like a little hacksaw and just saw them off, and you'll be fine. I don't particularly like stingers. Some guys do. They were kind of um, a novelty of the time, right? It was
yeah,
like, you have these, and same thing with like stainless sleeved pipes. Like I know that there are people that like are fine with that. I'm not at all, like
yeah.
not even remotely. There's some people that will make like
They smoke wet.
impossibly, impossibly thin, pencil shanks, and then they'll throw stainless down. I'm like, well, that took away all like the absorbent properties of the pipe. Now you basically have a cold material from the chamber.
Yeah,
So personally, that doesn't work for me. I don't like that.
yeah. I don't
Um,
really either.
I'd, I'd rather have a fragile pencil shank than a indestructible one
Yeah,
that may not smoke as well. But that's just me. I mean, everyone does things differently. I'm sure there's plenty of shit that people don't like about. In fact, this is a great point too. Is that there was a guy who copied this years back, and it was right on the verge of me getting the patent.
the Briar cigar
And
for those who aren't
the Briar
watching.
cigar. Sorry, again, this is a YouTube beneficial video or podcast.
So, okay, what's up, guys? We're back. Chris had some technical difficulties. It's probably because we're smoking cigars on a pipe podcast. The
Oh, yeah,
That's what it was. So
that must be.
we'll be
Where
sure that one
where
of us
were
are
we?
smoking a pipe next time.
So yeah. Anyway, so the aluminum
Aluminum in aluminum in the
against the chamber, and I guess the thoughts were that he was somehow solving a problem that we don't have of the wood burning, like burning through. And it's like, well, if there's a pit, it's going to burn through, which is why actually the Briar cigars only use the very, very, very clearest Briar that has a high
yeah
fail rate. Like we kick anything that has even like a little tiny pit in or outside, because it can essentially burn out the wall of the pipe because the walls are fairly thin. This is the Stogie version, which has the thicker walls, but the classic version have pretty thin walls. Um,
that's cool.
but he put aluminum in there, and I was like, why would you do that? And he's like, well, yours burns out. And I was like, I know exactly how many have burned out, but you don't. And then it turned into this whole war. I'm not going to say who he was, where he was from. A lot of guys have seen it.
Different
Uh,
country.
Different country. And I just said, you know, hope you got good running shoes because once the patent goes through, you're going to have some legal trouble. And the day that it came through, he gave up and he sent me a message and he said, "You win." And I said, "Okay, good."
Good.
I think
It's a
I've
cool
told
thing
that
about.
story before.
Yeah, I think you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, this isn't going to be a very long episode, but we just wanted to touch on airways a little bit, and maybe
Mhm.
for those who don't understand how some of those work and why you would go with one type of pipe versus another. Another
Yeah.
type would be like Peterson's system, which, in my opinion, it's causing the issue that it's trying to get rid of. It's causing the turbulence in the bowl portion, creating moisture, but it has the well in the bottom that's allowing it to be captured. In my opinion, as a pipe maker, if you make a pipe properly, you don't have to worry about that anyway. But they're in a factory setting, and I think it was a genius move on their part
Oh, yeah.
because they made it so any of their workers could make a bent, like a pretty full bent pipe, and not have to technically drill it correctly
Mhm.
because, well, it doesn't have to pass a pipe cleaner. They don't pass pipe cleaners typically with this system, and they're not intended to. And I think that was genius on their part as far as like the manufacturing of it, because now you don't have to have crazy highly skilled pipe makers creating that smooth airway because, well, this is how it's supposed to be, and it worked.
It's still used today. Like
Yeah,
not only do they use it, but other companies have adopted it. Like the Paul that we produce for Bones has a similar thing. It has the well, and then off of the well, you drill the airway, and that way
yeah,
it will not pass a pipe cleaner. Like some people will get one of those like Sherlocks. They're like, "Yeah, I'm going to pass a pipe." It won't pass a pipe cleaner, not even remotely. It just won't. Um,
yeah.
but
Well,
you don't
typically
need
the
to.
airway at the end of your stem is below, inside the well. It's below the airway, and
Mhm.
that's on purpose. It's creating that. It's
Yeah,
a okay. Let's say,
it's an RC.
yeah, Peterson system pipes are like a miniature reverse calabash chamber. They're a mini RC pipe,
Yeah,
which is a lot of the reason why so many people love them. They're very cool.
yeah. No, they are
Hey, I
cool.
got a question. Have you ever made a 9 millimeter or 6 millimeter filter for the Briar cigar? Are there
Mhm.
filtered Briar cigars?
Yeah, so that was the genius of this product. Not my genius, it was actually the manufacturer thought of it. But so the stems, it's kind of modular in this way. So we have stems that are flat. I think the 9 millimeter stems are flat because there were guys that don't like this sort of nipple design.
Yeah, I
So
don't really care
uh,
for that.
it's, I don't mind it. I mean, it locks into your teeth really well, but it's not as comfortable.
But how many people are clenching a Briar cigar?
Well, that's also the reason I don't really care to have a flat stem. Like I'm okay having this because I'm just gonna, it's like a hookah mouthpiece. But there is an option for the guys that want it. And on this side, it just has a 9 millimeter Delrin tenon,
Yeah,
and it has the same OD, and you just pop it in there because there is, the chamber space. It essentially just sits in there, and you have now a
cool.
filtered Briar cigar for guys that want that. Currently, I'm out of these. They are coming. It's been a very long and arduous process to get the Briar cut for these because, as a lot of people can imagine, um, if you have a block that's going to produce, this, that's a big block. Like
Yeah,
this piece is too big for a lot of blocks.
and
So
a lot of waste with the
it's a
rest of
lot
the
of
block.
waste. And it has to be exceptionally clean briar. So it's kind of annoying that we can only run these in small batches, but I'm working on a fix for that. Um, Possibly even like a secondary material because my patent does carry, I mean, it has stipulations to where I can essentially make it out of whatever material and I still own the product. So there might be, I mean, we've done Meerschaum, we've done Morta, we've done Briar. Arbutus sort of doesn't work, uh, although that was with the classic style. So we might make them in the Stogie version. It's a little bit thicker.
That'd be
Um,
cool.
Trying to think what other
I
materials.
mean,
The mirror,
if you had the bowl lined with something, you could make it out of pretty much whatever you wanted. It's
I mean,
just
I could go,
getting it
yeah.
lined in a way that makes sense from a manufacturing standpoint, that would be pretty hard.
It's really hard to find a material that will stand up to smoking, like the heat, the
Yeah.
hot cold, and then mainly just the erosion of the heat on the inside of the chamber. Like if you were to make like even the Cobb cigar, that was a completely disposable product. There are guys that still have theirs and they're still smoking them, but like a corncob pipe is a disposable pipe. You will eventually burn it out. You know, there
Yeah,
and especially with like the Cobb cigar, which is still I can't really make any announcements about it, but it may or may not be a possibility like next year
that'd be
based
cool.
on harvest. Because we need
You should just make
exceptionally
one that's a
large.
full corn cob with the kernels and everything, and just have it be ridiculous.
It would be. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous to begin with. It again kind of started as like a joke, and then Phil was like, "Yeah, we could do this," and it worked out. It was cool and it sold a lot. But the Briar cigar, the Meerschaum cigar rather, was really neat, and I would like to do more of those. But they are very cost prohibitive
Yeah,
to even have them standardized.
yeah, that'd be pretty wild.
They would all be different sizes. Like they don't have that ability in Turkey to where they're like, "Yeah, we're going to make them all exactly 5 inches long." So it's
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
it'd be cool, but unless people are interested in spending like 325, $350 per Meerschaum cigar, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have any questions about airways, comment down below. Like if you like videos like this where we talk about the more finer, like the finer details of pipe making itself, comment below. Let us know if you want to hear more of this kind of stuff because we'll put out. I could get a storyboard with like a whiteboard and draw things out and explain like Briar and
Ooh, that'd be cool. Get like a
yeah,
maniacal Sean in the background with his markers.
yeah. I mean that'd be fun.
Do a crazy hot pipe matrix.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be cool. So, all right. Thanks for listening, guys. This has been another episode of Beyond the Pipe with Chris and Sean. Email us at beyondthepipe1@gmail.com or comment below. Share with your friends. Get as many people watching this as possible just because it's fun.
Yeah.
Also, if you would like, we can do live YouTube videos at some point. If that's something you'd be interested in being a
Whether you
part
like
of,
it or not, we're gonna do it.
well, that's going to
We're
happen.
gonna
But you have the opportunity to like,
yeah.
talk with us live and ask questions on the spot. We can probably figure that out. Chris and I'll start doing research on how to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds good.
all right. Later.
All right. Later, guys.